Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whether you're joining us live or on demand, we want to welcome you back to our Mobile App Academy, where we show you how to build mobile apps on the Now platform. My name is Charlie Steiner, Product Marketing Manager here at ServiceNow, and today we'll be walking you through how to configure pre-existing ServiceNow Classic workflows onto the ServiceNow Agent app. Just want to call out a few people in the chat here. Wow, we actually have a pretty good attendance this morning. It's awesome to see you guys here. Hi, Steph, Mark, Miguel, Susan, Ivan, Damien, Anita, KS, Lewis. Thank you again for joining us live. We'd love to see you in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions throughout. We'll try and either call them out during the session, or we'll definitely get to them by the end of the session. So let us know. And if you're new to our Mobile App Academy, we host these every 2 weeks here at 10 a.m. on Zoom, 10 a.m. Pacific. And if you're new to our ServiceNow mobile apps, definitely let us know. We love getting insight from all of you, whether it's here on our community page or anywhere else. We put together these sessions based on your feedback, your suggestions, and frankly, what you want to learn more about. So definitely let us know. And with all that said, I'd like to introduce David Ha, Senior Product Manager on the mobile team, to get things started. David?
Thanks for the intro, Charlie. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Mobile App Academy. My name is David Ha, and I'm an outbound PM here at ServiceNow. And I want to give a warm welcome to everyone joining us live here today. So today, we're actually going to start focusing on our Mobile App Academies on instances on Orlando builds. So all of the App Academies prior to this have been showcased in New York, but starting with today's session, we're going to start highlighting some of the out-of-the-box experiences and features that are available only in Orlando. That doesn't mean that we won't brush on some of our New York concepts. You know, a lot of these features build on top of each other, but just know that we will start covering Orlando features moving forward. And for today's topic, we will be doing a live building session leveraging the mobile implementation guide that we updated and we also released on mobile community. And following the best practices from this guidebook, we're going to migrate some of our workflows from the old Classic app to the new mobile platform. So, we're hearing a lot of customers that are, they're familiar with our old legacy app and have yet to migrate to the new apps. And they're unfamiliar of what it's like developing on the new mobile platform. So in today's session, we're going to be doing the following. We're going to migrate our ITSM workflow from the Classic app to the ServiceNow Agent app. Then we're going to we're actually going to, when we build on the ServiceNow Agent app, we're going to focus on the agent fulfiller use cases. Remember, the ServiceNow Agent app provides pre-built workflows that are readily available to use upon plugin enablement. And since an out-of-the-box ITSM agent workflow is already available to use, we're going to use that as a template and then build on top of it. So we're going to look at some of the queries and actions that are on our Classic app, and then show you how you should think about and migrate those over to the ServiceNow Agent app. And to improve the out-of-the-box ITSM agent experience, we will create UI styles to highlight active incidents, create a custom global search so that users can easily look up incidents, and then we'll build an employee directory so that your agents can quickly look up their team members. So those are a few of the things that we will do today. And in order for you to be successful today, we recommend that you check out our mobile implementation guide that is listed as featured content on our mobile community. And since we are building on the ServiceNow Agent app, most of these configurations will take place inside of Mobile Studio, our low no-code mobile designer tool. If you are new to mobile, we highly recommend that you take a look at some of our training and labs that we already have available on the Now Learning site, as well as the ServiceNow developer site. It will give you a rundown and familiarity with Mobile Studio. And then all of these trainings are also featured under our community featured content as well. All right, so this live building session will last about 40 to 50 minutes, and then we'll open up to Q&A in the last 10 to 20 minutes. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll circle back and then address them. So without a further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into it. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. So for today's session, you're going to want to make sure that you already have installed the ServiceNow Agent app, as you can see on my left-hand side of the screen. In our previous App Academies, we've been primarily focusing on the pre-built mobile experiences for the Now mobile app. If you're new to mobile and you're looking to enable the Now mobile employee use cases, I highly recommend checking out our past videos on the ServiceNow Now Community YouTube channel. The first 8 or 9 videos will walk you through the common asks on how to customize your Now mobile workflows so that it fits your business needs. But for today, again, we're going to be focusing on the ServiceNow Agent app and the pre-built experiences for ITSM Mobile in Orlando. And I have also personally installed the ServiceNow Classic app, but I will only be using it today to show you the before and after. And this only applies to you if your organization has used the ServiceNow Classic app in the past. I'll show you how to take your past queries and then build them on the Agent app using Mobile Studio. And so to set up our environment on our instance, you're going to want to make sure that your instance is upgraded to Orlando. And then once you're upgraded, you should already have your basic mobile plugin automatically installed. The base plugins that you'll see will give you access to things like Mobile Studio, which is found here. And then it'll automatically enable Agent as well as soon as your instance is upgraded. But to get your Agent app to work, you need to enable at least one of the out-of-the-box experiences that we have. And the most common workflow is the ITSM mobile one. There is a new ITSM mobile plugin that can be found on our ServiceNow store. It's different than the old ITSM plugin from Madrid in New York. It provides new applets and applet launchers that you can take advantage of, or you can use it as a template to add to your mobile flows. So let me show you where to find that now. If we go to plugins on our left-hand nav, we'll click on this button that says Find in Store. And then we're going to search up ITSM Mobile. And then we'll launch this ITSM Mobile Agent app. I already have this requested, but once you're logged into Hive as a system admin, you can request this plugin to be added to your instance. And then once you have it added and installed, you just look up ITSM Mobile, and it's going to be this plugin here, which I have installed. Okay. And then once it's installed, it should automatically show up on your ServiceNow Agent app. So now that I'm good to go, let's go ahead and hop over to our mobile device. Okay, so once you have the plugin installed, it will come with 3 tabs. And these 3 tabs include My Work, My Team, as well as Major Instance. And on the My Work tab, you can see critical instance, instance assigned to you, as well as instance at risk and other work and on-call schedule. And then on the My Team tab, you can see My Team's dashboard, which shows incidents at risk, breach instance, and overdue changes. This leverages the new native report and dashboard capabilities that we have in Orlando. These are single scored reports that quickly show you the quick number summaries from your app launcher or landing page. We won't be focusing on these today, but we will show you how to configure these on another mobile app academy in the future. But if you need to configure these today, if you're looking forward to, how do I configure time series reports or single scorecards, and you are on an Orlando instance, we do have that product documentation up, so you can refer to that as well. And then underneath these, you have your team's unassigned instance, on-call schedule, performance metrics, as well as that time series report. Okay, and then on major instance, you can see active major instance, major incident candidates, as well as resolved major incidents. So these are just incident reports with slightly different queries. And if major incidents apply to you, you can take advantage of this new applet launcher as well. Okay, so that's basically what you have, all the content that's available in this new ITSM mobile plugin. All right, so now that I have this installed, I have the mobile plugin. There's a lot going on, and I'm a little overwhelmed as a new mobile user. So where do I start? So if you need help organizing your thoughts, taking a look at the implementation guidebook is a great place to start. And let me show you where you can access that. If you jump into mobile community, and under our featured content, we have a new guidebook called Updated Mobile Implementation Guide, which is this first link here. And then if you download this PDF, you'll see our new start implementing the ServiceNow mobile platform. Okay, and if we take a look at our table of contents, on page 16, there's this whole section on getting started with Mobile Studio, how to modify or create new mobile experiences. And this section, it will give you a 12-step process of all the things that you should consider as you build out and customize your ServiceNow mobile apps. So let's go ahead and skip to page 16. Which is here. And starting with, just to kind of walk you through some of these steps and how I would start looking at it. I'm not going to go through all of these steps, but at the end of today's workshop or today's App Academy session, you'll kind of get a gist and feel of how you can leverage this with your own mobile implementation. Okay, so starting with step one, it's asking you to define your app's purpose. For your organization, this would kind of require sitting down with your stakeholders, your customers, and users, and really understanding what you're trying to accomplish with your ServiceNow mobile apps. Who are the groups of end users that you're trying to build these workflows for? You have to ask these kind of questions. What data, reports, and actions that you want to enable for those end users so that they can get the most value out of their mobile apps. And for today's session, since our goal is to migrate our pre-existing ITSM agent workflows from the Classic app to the new mobile platform, and we only have agent fulfiller use cases to migrate, the only app that we're going to need to build inside of is ServiceNow Agent. So that kind of answers question number one, defining the app's purpose. And here, you can kind of define the user roles, departments, and things like that, permissions to apps, app launchers, and functions. And then moving on to step number two, it's all about customizing your user's landing page. Now that I know who I'm building this for, what are some of the things I need to consider building and customizing? I already have installed the ITSM Agent plugin, which provided me with template workflows on how to get started. And it might already achieve majority of the things that my end users need, like the 3 tabs that I've showed you. Or, I might have to modify a few things, a few queries, add a few reports so that it meets my users' needs. So how do I get started on comparing what I need to what I actually want to build? So this is where I can kind of start showing you what I have on the Classic app. So jumping into the Classic app, we're going to do some compare and contrast. So on the first thing that I see on my mobile Classic app is my favorites. And although favorites feature is not something that the new mobile platform supports today, the ability to get your users access to all of their favorite data, screens, and actions is something that we do support. You just have to think about it differently. This is essentially a landing page with 3 different incident reports, or it's what we call an app launcher in the new mobile platform. If we go back to the Agent app, each one of these tabs is essentially an app launcher or a landing page, and they can be customized and tailored to each one of your individual group's needs. And you can customize them how you'd like to show only the most important data and actions that your end users need. So this is where we kind of start on the Classic app, right? And the use cases, for instance, they're really simple here. If I take a look at our left-hand nav in Classic, and I scroll down to just the ITSM stuff, which is basically this incidents section, I have the use cases here include, reports that are active, active P1 assigned to me, as well as an activity stream. And then at the very top, you have a create new incident action as well. So if these are the only reports that you need to migrate, the configuration will be very minimal since our out-of-the-box reports on the Agent app already covers most of these. Maybe we just need to modify the queries. So let's go ahead and start comparing and contrasting, starting with the top, what I need to build inside of our Agent app. So at the very top is a create new incident. And these are some of the fields that I want my users to fill out. And this is something that I want to bring into the Agent app for my end users to be able to create new instances easily, right? So going back to my agent app on my work tab, if we actually already have a create new instant action function that was already pre-built for me. Next to this profile icon at the top right, that circle icon, if I click on that, it launches my instant creation action. Maybe it already has the fields that my users need, or there's some missing fields that I need to add. I would just go back in and modify the action parameters as necessary. And there's already a lot of good content on how to configure your own actions on the Now Learning and developer site for mobile. So if you're unfamiliar with this, please go and check out those trainings. So if I were to just take a quick look, right? One of the fields that's missing is category. And it looks like it defaults to inquiry and help. This is not one of the fields that I have. So I would just go into Mobile Studio, modify this action to include that category parameter, and then you're pretty much set. And then you have the action that your users need. So that's how I would start going back and forth and comparing what I need in Classic to what I need to build on Agent. All right, so moving on to next, I would then compare the reports that I have on Classic and going back to my incident section. Let's check out one of these reports. We have a report for active P1, and we can check out the query at the top here. And if we take a look at the query, it's simple. It's just instances that are active and they're assigned to me. So after that, I talked to my end users and I found out that in their day-to-day, they really want the ability to pull up P1, P2, and P3 instances. So taking what we have in Classic here and then improving upon it. So let's compare this to what we have on our agent app. If I open up the agent app and on my work, I have a applet called My Instance. I can click See All, and it looks like I have 4 records that are in progress, and they all seem to be critical. I think I'm mostly seeing P1 instance, but I can't say for certain unless I check the configuration. So now is a good time where I switch into Mobile Studio to check out the data item query. So since we're modifying the out-of-the-box workflows for ServiceNow Agent, we can make all of our modifications inside of Mobile Studio. Knowing when to use Mobile Studio versus modifying outside Mobile Studio, you can read the implementation guidebook for more information details. But at a high level, you can know that all of these ServiceNow Agent workflows can be modified and built inside of Mobile Studio. It's a much easier experience than modifying the Now mobile app in New York and Orlando. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's open up Mobile Studio on our left-hand nav. And then we've enabled the ITSM Mobile Agent plugin. So let's jump into the scoped application. There's a lot of things going on our left-hand nav. So let's go ahead and minimize this or collapse it all. We'll open up Mobile Studio. And then here are pretty much all the things or all the mobile components that you will need to build or customize on the agent app. We've jumped into the ITSM scoped application, which will give you access to all the things that have already been built in this ITSM agent workflow. Since we want to modify the My Instance query, let's find the data item for it here. Although I don't know exactly how they named it, I will just make an educated guess. And if it's called My Instance, I would guess that it's also called My Instance for data item, which looks like it's true here. So I'll open up My Instance data item. And I'm actually going to open up the applet as well, just to make sure that I've opened up the right thing. So let's look up My Instance. Search for instance. And they have a data item for, maybe it's instance here. Oh no, they have an applet for My Instance. It's probably this one. So if I look at the data item, it looks like it's consuming this My Instance data item. So now I know that I have the correct data item. Okay, and if we take a look at the query here, it pretty much matches what my end user is looking for already. It says active is true, assigned to is me, the state is not resolved. I didn't have that before, but this kind of makes it even better. My end users probably aren't interested in instances that are already resolved, so I'll keep that. And then for the priority, it says priority is 1 of 1 and 2. Since my end user is looking for P1, P2, and P3, we'll just modify the query to include all 3 of those, and then we'll click save. And then if we refresh the agent app, and then I click see all on my instance, I should be able to see P3 instance as well, which is true here. On that last record, I have an instance that has a priority of 3. Okay. So that's basically an example of me taking a look at the reports that I already have on Classic, right? And being able to rebuild those on the agent app using the out-of-the-box experiences and pre-built stuff that I already have on this. So it really minimizes a lot of the work that you need to do. It's just a matter of comparing and contrasting what you have to what you don't have and kind of filling in that gap. Okay. Another thing that I noticed is I noticed that my teams and major instance, they're using UI styles. But it seems like on this applet, the UI styles here aren't highlighted in the way that I want. For my end users, the most important records are the instances that are in progress. And so I want this to be highlighted in green so that as soon as they log into this app, the most important things show up immediately. So let's go ahead and create a UI style for this really quickly on my instance. So on Mobile Studio, let's open up the UI style. Let's UI style here. We'll create a new UI style. And then let's go ahead and call this my incident state in progress. I'll put my initials just so it's easier to find. It's going to pull from the incident table. And the records live on the incident table, so that's why I have to select that. And then the condition is anytime that the state is in progress, I want to apply some sort of coloring to it. So let's go ahead and select state is in progress. And then the field name, I have to match it to what's exists inside the table, which is state. And then for the style, it's going to ask for background color and font color. So on our product docs, we take a look at product docs. And you open up the mobile UI styles. We have a bunch of hex background colors and text colors that you can use. But just know that you can use your own hex colors as well. Since I want the green, I'm going to select this here, background color. And then I'll also select the text color here as well. And then I gotta make sure that this is there. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and click submit. So now that I've created my UI style, to get this highlighted, I've only created it, now I have to apply it to this specific applet. So to get it applied, I will just open up this applet, my instance. If I scroll down, this is where you would apply your UI style. So it looks like this pre-built applet, it seems that they've already tried bringing over some UI styles, but for some reason the conditions on it aren't matching. So maybe maybe there was a misconfiguration that was built by the original team. So we'll instead bring over ours to see if it works instead. So the one that I created was called my incident. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Let's reload the frame just to refresh the applet. And then we'll try to find my incident, which is this one here. Bring it over and click save. So now if I refresh the agent app, I should be able to see my UI style. And there we go. For some reason, these UI styles don't work, so I would just take these off, right? And then I'll click save. Okay, and then you would also do this to all the other states as well, right? So if you have new records, or in progress or resolved, you can apply UI styles there as well. And this only applies to our list view at the moment. If I click into the record, you see that UI style hasn't been applied yet. And that's because I haven't modified the form screen yet, which contains the details here. And I'll just scroll down here and also apply the same UI style, just my instant. Click save. And if I refresh, I should now be able to see my UI style. Okay, so that's some quick things that you can do to make your records pop out. Okay, so another thing that I want to do to enhance my incident workflow for my end users is to customize global search to also include incidents. This will let your end users quickly search up their instance instead of scrolling through a list of instances. And this is an Orlando only configuration. This is not something that you could previously do on New York instance. In Orlando, you will be able to customize global search so that it can look up records in any table of your choosing. And I already have a global search enabled here on my team that was provided to me out of the box. But currently, it only looks up services and articles, right? So if I look up Excel, it will provide me whatever records live on this instance. But if I want to look up instance, it's only looking up services and articles, which is not what I want. So I want to take this global search from my team, and I want to apply it to this Apple launcher here on my work, but for it to also include instance, right? To do this, this configuration will be a configuration outside of Mobile Studio on the Now Platform UI. And let me go and show you what that looks like on our instance now. So on our left-hand nav, we're going to look up our Apple launcher for my work. And it looks like it's going to be this record here, my work. I'll zoom in just in case you can't see it. And then we're going to make sure that we are in the correct scope, which is ITSM Mobile Agent. That looks right. And here, this looks like what I'm expecting. This Apple launcher doesn't currently have a global search. There's nothing configured here. And so what I want to do is I want to be able to take this global search from my team and then add instance to it. So I know that out of the box, they named this global search, I believe they called it catalog item ALP search. And this was actually a search that was borrowed from the Now mobile app. I wouldn't recommend customizing this way. I would just create your own, but this is something you can do too. And just make sure that I have the correct global search. I'll check out the details on this. And it's looking for items and services. So I do have the correct global search. So let's go ahead and update this. If I look at my work tab, I refresh, I should be able to see that global search. Give a second, okay. And now I can look up items and services. Now, how do I configure an additional table to this? So let's go and do that now. Jumping back into my work Apple launcher. Let's go ahead and go into the search configuration record and customize this. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is when I search for instance, it's gonna pull up a list of instance. And to control the visualization of that, it requires a master item. Master item has an IDView JSON, which basically tells you, what are the fields that you want to appear when you look up that incident record. So we're going to create a new master item, and it's going to require me to jump into the scope for Now Mobile because that's where it was originally built. So let's jump into the Now Mobile scope, which is called Now Mobile Catalog Screens and Apple Launcher. Okay, And now I can create a new master item. So let's do that now. So I have a couple options here. I can either create another master item from scratch. And again, master items, they're created automatically when you use Mobile Studio to create new applets. When you select a template for lists or select a template for calendar or things like that, it automatically generates the master item for you. So that might take a little while to do. I wouldn't recommend it. I would do things that that can save you time. And since we want to look up incident records, I already have a my instance master item. So why don't I just reuse this master item here? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to guess that there is a master item called my instance. Or let's just look up incident and see what our options are. Or let's look up my incident. Oh, and there is a master item called my instance master item. I don't know exactly how this is configured, so we'll select this and then we'll check out the record. So it's pulling from the instance table and it's actually pulling from this scoped application. So this is a good sign to me. This is probably using the my instance applet master item. This is exactly what I want and I don't have to build from scratch. So I'm gonna go ahead and just reuse this. And the embedded screen is basically your detail screen, right? It has your details, activity stream, and really a list if it has one. So that all has already been configured for me. So again, I'm just gonna reuse this and then I'll go ahead and click submit. So now I have my master item. So when I look up instance, it'll show me the fields like this when I search it up. And the next step is that you have to configure your search context configuration. Since I'm reusing this global search, I already have one, so I just have to modify this. So we'll jump into this record. And there's going to be a related list table called application search sources. It currently has a source for services, but I also want to add a new search source for instance. So let's create a new source here. We'll click create new. We'll give this a name for incident. This is probably too generic of a name, so let's give it something. We'll put my initials just so I can find it easier. It's going to pull from the incident table. And for my end users, they probably want to look up all instances, not just my instance. We'll give them the capability to do that. So for our conditions, we're just going to set active is true. Okay. So now when I create this search source, they should now be able to look up any records within this table and within these conditions. So we'll go and click submit. And then the order is oh, right. So the order is when I look up global search on this, the order is the order of tables. So if you want service to show up first or articles, that's how you set the order. I probably want instance to show up first and prioritize that. So we'll set the order to 10. And we'll click submit. Okay. And then lastly, we want to rename this. So there is currently a placeholder being used that's called search for items or articles. So let's go back and rename this. The placeholder currently says search for items and services. We're going to rename this to search for incidents, items, and services. Okay, and then we'll click save. All right, so that is pretty much it on how you can configure your custom global search. The last thing that I need to do is just refresh the changes. Just know that when you configure custom global search, it will actually require a log out and log back in to update the changes. So let's go and do that now. I'm going to log out. We'll log back in. I will enter my credentials. And there you can see the placeholder search for instance, item, and services. One of the categories is incident, comma, my initials. I can rename that, of course, but I just named it just so that you can tell that I created it. And if I look up instance, it should pull up all my instance records. And there we go. We can see all my instance here. And you can actually control your search result limit as well as suggestion limit here as well. Okay. And if I tap into the record, I can see the details, activity stream, and all the other related fields that I would need. So that's a really quick way to look up any record from any table. Okay, so that's custom global search, which can be applied to any table on any applet launcher, and of course, any client, including agent, now mobile, and onboarding. All right, so we have 20 minutes left. So on Classic, let's go ahead and find one more thing to migrate off the Classic app. On our left-hand navigator, although it's not specifically for instance, there is a My Teams report under field service. Maybe my end users have shared with me that they want the capability to be able to quickly look up a My Teams report on one of the landing pages. And when they look that up, they want the ability to natively call and email their teammates from the app. So that's one of the advantages of our new native platform. Things like being able to natively call or email, you don't ever have to copy and paste. You can do that on the new mobile platform as opposed to the Classic app, where I would have to copy and paste the phone number or email just to do things. I'm going to go ahead and migrate this My Teams report, which currently doesn't even have anything, and migrate it over to the agent app. And I'm actually going to put it on My Teams applet launcher, and I'll put it at the very top here so that I can see my teams. And when I click into the records, I'll see additional info on my team members. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this inside of Mobile Studio. We're going to jump back into our IT System Mobile Scope, which is here. And since we're building on top of this, I can just jump into the scope and I can build a new applet using Mobile Studio. So let's create a new employee directory applet. And we'll call this My Teammates. We'll give it an icon in color. We'll select the employee directory template, and then we'll click Create New. And then I'll have to configure a new data item. Call this My Teammates. It's going to pull from the sys user table. And then for my conditions, so that it pulls up my team. I think this logged in user has a department of IT service desk or ITSM fulfiller. So this will show my users ITSM fulfiller teammates. Now that I have that data item saved, I just have to select the data item, my teammates. And then for the fields, we're going to bring over E1 is avatar. We'll also bring over name and title. And then we'll click save. So that was the initial list view. And now let's also configure the form view or the detail screen. We'll replicate from primary, so we have the same fields. Then we'll save. So that pretty much completes our employee directory applet. Now we just have to associate it to the landing page or applet launcher that I want. And I want to associate it to my team's applet launcher. So let's find my team's applet launchers. We're going to create a new UI section so that it lives at the very top. And it's going to be an item stream so that I can scroll between my teammates. So let's create a horizontal UI section that has a type of item. We'll call this My Teammates. And then we'll select My Teammates. And we'll click Save. And then we'll just bring this over to the top and then click Save. And then if I refresh, I can now see my teammates. And if I click into one of my teammates, oh, it looks like there's no information on this quite yet. So let's double check my applet and make sure that in the body, we bring over some fields. Let's bring over department. Email, like what my end users need, as well as phone number and location. Okay, now we save. If I refresh, I can now tap into it and see additional details. Right, so at the moment, I would have to copy and paste this email just to send an email. But if I want to do it natively, I can create a smart button that would allow me to just tap on this, and it'll natively open up my email launcher. Or if I tap on mobile phone, I'd be able to make that call without having to copy and paste. Right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create two smart buttons, one for email and then one for mobile phone. So let's do that now. Under functions and smart buttons, we're going to create a new one. We'll create this first smart button for email. Teammate email. The type is email. It's going to be record context because it's taking context of this record. It's pulling from the sys user table. I can default the email subject if I want to. So we can just do test and give it a email content. So anytime I tap on this to launch the email, it'll automatically populate these fields. And then we're going to want to populate the email field. Okay, and then we'll click save. So there is a smart button for email. I just have to associate it back to its applet. But before we do that, let's also create the smart button for phone as well. So let's call this teammate mobile phone. The type is phone. Record context, pulling from the sys user table. We'll select mobile phone. And then we can default the SMS as well. So let's just say test. Okay, and then we'll click save. Now that I have these two smart buttons, in order for it to work, I just have to apply it to this applet on the body fields here. So let's find my teammate's applet. These fields live in the body of my applet. So I have to go into profile screen, body. If I scroll down, there's field functions here. This is where I can apply my smart buttons. First, we want the email field. The only fields that will show up are the fields that you bring over to your applet. I'm seeing some confusion on community where they couldn't figure out why they couldn't bring over their smart button. And the reason for that is because you have to select those fields before you can apply the smart button. So we'll select email, and then we'll select our email button, which is called my teammates or teammates, TTT, teammates email. And we'll click save. And then we'll create another smart button for mobile phone. Smart button, teammate mobile phone. There it is, click save. And then we'll save these changes. And then all we have to do is refresh the app. If I click into a record, I can now send email natively. It automatically filled in my subject and body. And I can send an email. And also I can make a native phone call or a text. So I can either call this phone number or I can send a text message, which it automatically filled in the test. Okay. So that's pretty much the gist on how you can get started with your mobile classic migration. I simply migrated over the incident workflow from this left-hand nav, but there's so much more that you can do, right? And of course, for every organization, their workflows are different, but I was just using incidents as an example. If you're new to mobile, hopefully that was very insightful on getting familiar with the out-of-the-box reports, how to make modifications and create new workflows using Mobile Studio. And if you have experience with mobile, hopefully that was a good refresher. And you can actually now leverage the new mobile implementation guidebook to think through and work out the rest of your implementations, right? Going back to this implementation guide, we only touched on a few of these points, right? We covered landing pages and app launchers. We configured a UI section. You know, you still have the rest of this docs pretty much gets you thinking through what are all the things that I would need for my end users, right? So we configure data items and applets, but there is so much more. We kind of only touched a few points of these. So as you continue iterating and improving your mobile apps and start taking advantage of your Orlando features, you can refer to this on how you can take advantage of those and when it makes sense to start implementing it. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over today. Do we have any questions from the audience? Let's take a look at our chat. So we did get a question on, will modifying the out-of-box applets cause skips in future releases? So we have talked with internal teams, teams who have built these pre-built BU apps, and they've been migrating since New York to Orlando and then Orlando to Paris. And as long as you stick to our update set migration process, we've heard from internal teams shared with us that they didn't have any problems migrating. So if you want to, you can build on top of the out-of-the-box, the scoped application here. You can just build into this. But we have heard of other customers who they would prefer to copy this entire scoped application just so that they can use this as more of a template and they can refer to it. There is no correct way, right? You can do one or the other, or either build directly into it or create a copy of it and build it into that. That's probably the safer option, but just know that you're not limited to one or the other. Any other questions? We have a question, what is the best way to debug a user issue on production, since we do not have the impersonate functionality on mobile? Fu, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so let me see, what is the best way to debug a user issue on productions? Huh. Can you unmute her and ask more questions on this?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and unmute Sayama. Allow to talk. Okay, I've given Sama talking privileges. So if you unmute, you can ask your question and kind of give this more clarity on what you're looking for.
What kind of user issue are you talking about?
So hi, thanks for the session. And so basically we are planning to release mobile agent, the Now Agent app into production. So we are trying to find out what could be the possible issues when this goes live and how will the user report issues if they have any. So I don't have a specific case at the moment, but I'm just trying to find out from our operations team, the people who manage the end users, and then they report an issue. So what's the best way to debug? Because they, on a normal case, if an issue is reported, they first do there is a triage on their end before they pass it on to the development team. So before it goes from an L1 to the L2 and L3. So when it comes to mobile, because they cannot impersonate, so what is the best way where they can find out if the issue, what is the issue that the user is facing and so on?
Yeah, that's
I'm not sure if you across users who had similar issues.
Yeah, we've had requests about to impersonate users for testing. Currently now, we don't have that, but in the future we will. So right now, how I would approach it is, you identify all your users' roles. For example, if you know your roles, ITSM and so forth, right? The main roles that you have, and then create dummy accounts for that, and then log into that on your mobile instance, and then test your applets against that. So does that kind of make sense?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So I think clear documentation and writing out your use cases and making sure that you write out your test cases for each thing that you configure, then you can kind of pass on that documentation to the next team to test. We are working on the impersonation feature. It's been highly requested on community, the idea portal. We've heard about you, and we're furthering a discussion with the internal teams, and we are considering on working on that feature for a future release. So it's coming in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Since I'm unmuted, can I have another question?
Yeah, of course.
To the audio?
Mm-hmm.
So while we were implementing this, we implemented a field which was like a date time field. And I see that the calendar functionality that comes up on the field is a bit different when it comes to iOS and Android. On Android, it does give display and help you navigate from one year to another. But when it comes to iOS, it just gives the date and the time selection. And only when you click on the date, that's when on the field itself, you can display, the year gets displayed. So what if someone wants to go and navigate through the years? Is there a better way to do it, or is it something specific on an iOS setting that helps them to do it? I'm not sure if you have any date fields on your existing applets, and maybe that makes it more clear on what I'm trying to tell.
Yeah, I think that's a iOS feature. There's nothing we can control on how it's. You're talking about like the choice list when in terms of scrolling through calendars, or not calendar, but date time, actually dates.
So for instance, if it's the plant start date, so it's a date time field. And when I open the calendar, the user has the ability to select the dates. Now, if it's almost the end of the year, they may want to select the next year. And it's kind of a scrolling feature where you just have to scroll in iOS, while you can click on the arrows and go to the next year when it comes to Android.
Right, that's a native feature from iOS, and we just don't have control over it. It's their default way. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Like in JavaScript, you could actually like toggle between years and not just months. But this one it's a native feature that we're leveraging.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Is there a way to default to the current year, and then maybe make it easier to scroll to the next year more immediately, or something like that possible? I wonder.
I'm not sure. I think by default it's like the current. Actually, I haven't really played with like current years and stuff. I thought it was like the current date, which means it's the current year by default. Or it just selects the date that you're trying to edit, and then you can just move it around. But again, this is like the way the behavior of the dates. It's all controlled by iOS or Android as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? We have time for about 5 more minutes of questions, but if not, we can also close it off as well. Let's see, any other? Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and just close it off for today. So thank you everyone for joining us in today's session. Hopefully it was informative and helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to keep posting on our mobile community site so that we can explore other configurations in future Mobile App Academy sessions. We will be taking a break for Mobile App Academy on July 6th, and we will be resuming July 20th. So make sure to follow our mobile community site to get the latest dates and information. Thank you everyone for joining today's session, and hope to see you at the next Mobile App Academy. Cheers everyone.